In terms of marketing, in terms of connectivity, in terms of travel experiences. Consumers and travelers are in control now. They know what they want. They find what they want on social media. And they are driving new patterns in travel.
In the future, I do believe using the AI agent and using the dialogue or chat as a search experience will become a mainstream in the future.
The problem going forward is how do you manage the expectations of travelers? Because we are all used to, as TK says, on demand, me economy, where we get what we want at the time that we want it. And that transfers into travel and tourism.
Hello and welcome to Connected. I'm Susan Chow, sitting in for Divya Gopalan. What do you think is the world's busiest flight route? Would you be surprised if I told you it's the 800 kilometers between Hong Kong and Taipei? Global travel and tourism are on track to not only exceed pre-pandemic levels, but also to take on a different look and feel to how we were traveling 5 years ago. To understand how startups and other businesses are finding smarter ways to tap into the fast-evolving sector, we're joined by Ting-Kuan Chen in Taipei. He is the CEO of FunNow Group, a leading lifestyle booking platform group founded in Taiwan in 2015. It has more than 8 million users in 7 countries across Asia. And joining us from Kuala Lumpur is Gary Bowerman. He is an Asia-based travel economist and co-founder of High Yield Tourism, whose mission is to help various tourism boards rethink the economics of tourism. He also co-hosts the Southeast Asia Travel Show podcast. Thank you both for joining us on Connected. Gary, it has been almost 3 years since borders reopened after the pandemic. Do you think global travel and tourism have returned for good? And what's the biggest change you've seen?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of change. It's 5 years since everything closed down, isn't it? The world came to a halt. Asia Pacific in particular had the longest lockdown. So those years that you're talking about in terms of recovery, we've seen a huge recovery in Asia Pacific, a bit staggered. Southeast Asia's countries opened before most of Northeast Asian countries. Mainland China was the last to reopen. So we've seen a phased recovery, but I think what we're definitely seeing in 2024, and this will carry over into 2025, is that the recovery in Asia Pacific is being generated from within Asia Pacific. We've seen a huge surge in intra-regional travel.
Yeah, that's what we see as well. TK, how has your company, FunNow, adapted to the changes in the tourism and lifestyle sector over the last couple of years with the surge in travel again?
Okay, actually we do around 3 biggest changes. The first one is we are enhancing our self-service function on our app because after pandemic, after COVID, more individual travelers and they want to control their schedule. And they don't want to have too many hassles when they reschedule or cancel. So this is why we put all this kind of sales function into our app and web. And second is about we increase our SKU because the users after pandemic and the traveler, they want to experience more kind of activities or events. So that's why we adopt a lot of long tail SKU in our portfolio. And third one, we figure out that after pandemic, the high-end demand is stronger than the low-end demand. And we see a lot of travelers like or want to spend more money to enjoy the life or experience during the trip compared to before COVID.
Yeah, that sounds certainly very different. And you're talking about more customized experiences, more autonomy for the travelers, and they're looking more high-end, offerings. So Gary, based on what you know, have travelers become more tech-savvy and selective as well?
Yeah, they have. I mean, I agree with everything that TK said. Those 3 trends that he referenced are absolutely true. We're seeing more focus on individual travelers. We're seeing more focus on the high yield segment. And we're also looking at how technology is playing such a bigger part in travel and tourism. And I think coming out of the pandemic era, we've seen 2 things. One is just the growth and the expansion and the diversification of the platform economies across Asia Pacific. And the second is just the growing importance of social networks. They were really strong and important before the pandemic, but even more so now. And I would say in terms of marketing, in terms of connectivity, in terms of travel experiences, consumers and travelers are in control now. They know what they want. They find what they want on social media, and they are driving new patterns in travel, not the tourism boards, not the travel marketers. This is all coming from the demand side.
Yeah, that sounds similar to what many industries are experiencing, more consumer-centric, more traveler-centric. So TK, FunNow, I know, has been busy in the last 4 years. I understand you made 3 new acquisitions in booking platforms alone. Can you tell us more about these and what is your thinking on the future of integrated lifestyle reservation platforms?
I think this is exactly the same as what Gary said, that more and more people like to use platform when they are doing the travel. However, if we see the different components during the journey of your travel, actually we figure out a few segments that there are still a big market upside potential. The first one would be the dining. You see the hotel flight, there are a lot of players, and the internet penetration rate or online penetration rate is higher than 80 or 90%. However, during the dining, the local will use the local platform to looking for the food or for a good dining or find a restaurant. However, there are not single big platform. All for the traveler can use the same platform to find the food, to find the lunch and dinner. And actually right now, especially if you are focusing in Asia, food, tasty food is quite important element when you are traveling. When you ask all of the Asia people, what do you want to do during your vacation, during your holiday? Food will be one of them. So this is why we do a 2 acquisition, one to fulfill our SKU or supply on this restaurant or F&B segment. And second one, we see a lot of parents, they bring kids to go out. Traditionally, or before COVID, most of the family, they go out with a tour. However, right now, we see a lot of young couples, they bring their kids between 4 to 10 years old and go out. So this is why we also want to focus on. So this is why we acquire a kid parents marketplace platform, Nice Day. So this is what we see, the upside potential in this industry. The family, the young parents, this is also the area we will be focused on.
It seems that more and more people want an experience that feels different and personal while traveling. This graphic shows that travelers' experiences are becoming at least as important as where they sleep. In terms of the share of total revenue, travel experiences have grown from 15% 10 years ago to 50% today at an equivalent contribution level with accommodations. Gary, looking ahead, what are the most interesting travel trends you see in 2025? Maybe the top 3, either globally or in Asia.
I think certainly in Asia, we will see the growth of solo travel, young people traveling themselves, having the confidence to experience new lands, new experiences, new cultures, new cuisines on their own. And we're seeing a lot more niche travel companies, niche travel platforms that are catering to solo travel. I think that's one we will definitely see. I agree with TK. I think the growth of family travel is very, very interesting. And the travel industry is looking to create new experiences for families across Asia. So that's one definitely to watch the growth for. I think the other one is also how payments are changing. As the platform economy and QR code payments become more prevalent across the region, the issue has been, particularly over the last 2 years, is that a lot of people's payments aren't interoperable in another country. The payment that you use every day in your own country, at home, on your app, on your phone, you can't use overseas. So I think going forward, that's really where the banking industry, the travel industry, the platform industry try to work much closer together so that people can pay in their own currency wherever they travel.
So TK, based on what Gary said in terms of the general trends, what specifically in your business are you seeing as big trends in travel and lifestyle? Are they matching what Gary's saying, or what are you keeping your eye on this year?
One thing I already mentioned, that the high-end, the luxury demand, I think this is the key trend we are focusing on, because we do believe when people go out, they want to treat themselves well. So this is the first one. And the second one, we figure out because of the platform economics, so everything will be on demand. So the last minute booking or on-demand booking will be much essential for the travelers. And when you want, you can search on platform which restaurant you want to eat spontaneously. And the third one, I will say, most of travelers want to travel to one country and they want to travel like a local. So this is why I always say, the traveler, for example, if you travel to Taiwan, right now the people not only want to experience Din Tai Fung, they also want to try some different local food, or the coffee is quite famous on IG or for the young people. So travel like a local will be the third trend we are looking for. So these three are top three in my mind.
Gary, how does high-yield tourism help tourism boards and businesses create a quantifiable outcome based on the various consumer trends?
Okay, well, as TK said, the two things that we've really seen in terms of the recovery, particularly in Asia Pacific, is that that high luxury segment, which is very, very strong. Particularly here in Southeast Asia, we've seen a real surge back in the luxury segment. And we've seen mass tourism. We've seen the low-cost carriers have recovered very, very fast. So there's a lot of mass tourism, high number tourism coming into various countries. What destinations are going to have to do going forward is build a bridge between mass tourism and luxury tourism. It's very, very important because you're seeing in countries like Thailand, for example, Japan is another good example. The numbers are increasing year on year. Japan broke its pre-COVID record last year, and it cannot just keep having more and more travelers. It's going to put pressure on infrastructure, on services, costs will rise, that kind of thing. So what we do is we work with tourism boards around the world to provide a better balance in their tourism economies, looking at how they can actually change their inbound mix to keep mass tourism, yes, of course, keep high luxury end of tourism, of course, but look at that middle segment, which is very high yielding, and it can help countries to disperse travelers around the country so they don't just go to the hotspots, they don't just go to the key tourism places where everybody congregates, and they can then become advocates. So they can share through their social media or through their own networks, they can advocate for places around the country that are not the hotspot. So it's a lot of data work. There's a lot of working in terms of changing mindsets about how tourism actually works financially, looking at the leakages in tourism, looking at where the benefits are. So it's a whole structural program, but it's certainly one of the issues that we're noticing is becoming very, very important in the post-pandemic era, because countries recognize that tourism has a very strong economic recovery aspect to their economies, but they don't just want it concentrated in specific areas.
And as you said earlier, I think travelers are having a lot more control, and they have access to, gateways and platforms where they're able to plan it out. So I think with all this information that are being available to them, hopefully they can reach a more balanced way of, getting information and planning on their travels rather than looking at the two ends of the spectrum. Gary, travel planning used to be mainly about deciding on a destination. Now it seems, as you were saying, to also be about how travelers are choosing and designing their own itineraries. How dramatic do you think is that shift from just a few years ago?
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think it's definitely huge. And I think, as you saw during the pandemic, we were all traveling around our own countries and we all had to find our own way. The travel industry had basically shut down. So what the pandemic has taught us is to become a little bit more independent, but also to become more reliant on technology and how technology can be segued into our travel planning. I think one of the biggest trends in travel and tourism in Asia Pacific since the pandemic is self-drive tourism. Now, self-drive tourism has been popular in the US, in European countries for many, many years. It was developing fast before the pandemic, but it's just taken off, and particularly self-driving for EVs, electric vehicles. We're seeing much more demand for that. And the reason I think for that is it gives people more control over their own itineraries. They can plan where they want to go. They don't necessarily have to stay in the main cities or the main coastal areas or even the main inland areas. They have the freedom to hit the road and choose their own and control their own itinerary. And that is going to happen at a faster pace over the coming year.
Next, we will hear from Ting-Kuan Chen, a top-rated tour guide from GuruWalk.com. He runs a hiking tour along the 92-kilometer Taipei Grand Trail that gives a full-circle view of Taipei from the surrounding mountains. Ting-Kuan shares with us a first-hand account of the unique experiences that tourists want when visiting Taiwan.
So far, I've met more than 2,000 travelers coming from 40 different countries, every continent. For most of them, they agree that it's unique because simply because in Taipei City or Taiwan in general, there are just not so many hiking trails that are designed for inbound or let's say international travelers. So when they found that, oh, there's an English-speaking, Spanish-speaking hiking tour, they will bring them to a place that's off the beaten track. Oh, that's a hiking trail. It's not the famous Elephant Mountain Trail right next to Taipei 101, but hey, from the pictures the tour guide shared on the internet, it seems very cool, and the view is actually maybe better.
TK, travel businesses seem to be evolving fast and deploying smarter ways to grow their value. You were mentioning earlier that a lot of the orders that you're getting online are on demand. So one example, I guess, would be dynamic pricing. Can you tell us more about that and how it's being applied on your platform?
Okay, I think dynamic pricing or yield management is not a fancy terms in travel industry, because for the airline, for the hotel, and even Uber and Grab, they use it a lot. However, what FunNow do is we try to apply this technology as a platform services to all of the service retail merchant, like a restaurant, massage shop, beauty salon, etc. And what is the upside for that is, for example, a quite famous restaurant, and maybe they will have a peak in the lunchtime and dinner time. However, if they still want to do the business and want to acquire more travelers to go to their restaurant, not only the local people, they will reduce the pricing or have a high discount in off-peak hours, and to attract more travelers, because if you are a traveler, you don't necessarily need to eat at 12 o'clock for lunch or 6 o'clock in the evening. You have a more flexible time. Maybe you only eat 2 meals per day or 1 good meal per day, and others you can eat bread or others or snack or something. So what we do this is because right now we already see the peak hours, there's no more supply for this kind of a good restaurant or good massage merchants. However, they still have an empty room or table for F&B massage industry. So we would like to provide this as a kind of a economic theory to attract more users to dining or to have a service during off-peak hours. And it is also increasing the revenue for those merchants.
So back to Gary. To better serve the savvy travelers, how can tourism boards and businesses better leverage technology and data, such as what FunNow has just talked about on their platform, to enhance their values and truly deliver distinct and unique travel experiences for the travelers?
Okay, so I think there's two sides to that. I totally agree again with TK. I think demand management and supply and pricing management is something we're going to see much, much more of, particularly in destinations that have a high concentration of visitors at certain times, or as TK said, places where you have a rush or a surge of visitors to a lunchtime or to a museum in the morning or that kind of thing. Demand management is going to be much more of a key issue, and the technology is there now. Algorithms, AI, and machine learning enable us to do that much better. So we will see much more of that. From the side of the from the tourism board side, I think it's very difficult because, as I said earlier, consumers are in control. They know exactly what they want. They find everything they want from social media, and they are very, very discerning and seamless. They will not accept things that don't go their way. And the problem going forward is, how do you manage the expectations of travelers? Because we are all used to, as TK says, on demand, me economy, where we get what we want at the time that we want it. And that transfers into travel and tourism. But that's difficult when you have millions of people in the same place at the same time. So I think we're going to have to find our way through this gradually. Technology will certainly be a big part of that, how we manage demand management. But we also have to understand that tourists have this expectation that everything they do is personalized. How they respond, how they experience the destination or an experience is in their own terms. And managing that in aggregate is not going to be easy.
TK, how can AI enhance personalized travel experiences? Do you think it can provide the distinct and unique experiences that travelers want?
If we go to the basic of the human need, If you go to one city or one country, if you have a friend there, the first thing you will do is ask your friend where I should visit, which restaurant you recommend, etc. So I do believe in our platform, if we can use GAI technology, using like a ChatGPT experience, when people ask something, we can respond something with some human touch or some warmth, that it can enhance the experience of the search experience. So I imagine that you can ask your AI agent, it's like your personal guide or personal agent, where are we going to eat tonight? Which kind of food do you like? Or what will be the site, or where are we going to visit in the afternoon? Can you help me to arrange a dinner around the place? So I will say, going in the past, we are using the list to search which, or filter to search which restaurant or which merchant I'm going to visit. And over the pandemic or these 2 years, a lot of people using the map more to see where is a restaurant around the place I'm going to visit. However, in the future, I do believe using the AI agent and using the dialogue or chat as a search experience will become a mainstream in the future. So this is why our company FunNow, we spend a lot of engineering resources to develop an AI agent for travelers.
And I think that connects very well with the data you were talking about, so was what Gary's talking about. And I see that as sort of like a fast-moving data where it's instantaneous and gives you instant results, versus what Gary's talking about is more of a longer-term view, slower moving but more sustainable, more trend-focused data that can also help to project and point out, predictions, for example, that maybe we're not gathering at the moment, but we'll be able to feed into the AI training in the future. So moving to maybe a slightly different topic, and you mentioned that before, TK. Gary, TK talked a lot about food. So what do you think? How does food tourism play into the demand for personalized travels?
Absolutely. Food is the gateway into cultures. It's the gateway into landscapes, and it's the gateway to understanding the destination that you're traveling in. As TK said, in Asia in particular, we're food obsessed. We're obsessed with the foods in our own countries, and we're obsessed with the experiences we can enjoy in other countries. But I think what you're starting to see much, much more now is the backstory of food. It's not just about the restaurant that you go to. It's not just about the food or the chef or where the food is served. It's more about how can you understand the origins, the backstories of the food, the ingredients, how were they curated, how were they nurtured in different parts of the country, where did the recipe come from, how historic is it? I think people are looking for those backstories, because when they post their experiences on social networks, whether it's videos or photos, they want to show that they understand, not just that they're enjoying the foods, but they understand the backstory to that food. And that's something we started to see before the pandemic, and it's definitely happening more and more now.
And TK, with your purchases of Table app and Eatago, are you banking on people's appetite for food tourism?
Yeah, absolutely. It is the fact. And I also like the sentence, the word Gary said, the food is the gateway of the culture. So I really do believe that. So this is why we do believe there's a big market potential for the food industry for tourism. So this is why I do a two acquisition, Eatigo and also the Table app. And why we bring the value for the tourism is, as I said, we are an internet platform. So we can bring more transparency and more information for tourism. Easy to book a restaurant or easy to find a good restaurant, which local people also like. And second, we bring, like, as I said, the yield management, the dynamic pricing to help the merchant. They can attract more tourism during the off-peak hours, given the tourism has more flexibility than the local people because they need to go to work or they have a kids, something like that. And third one, as I say, that if we collect more data, we can help the merchant to marketing them to the right people precisely, because different people has a different taste. However, some people go to one city and say, oh, the food is sucks. Maybe the food is not sucks because they didn't go to the right restaurant they like. So if we have enough data, we can recommend the right restaurant to the right people, I do believe that we can let the travel experience become much better and much more wonderful.
Okay, one last question, Gary, and an important one. I know you're also talking to tourism boards about the importance of environmental and social impacts. How can they reconcile managing these impacts with higher tourism value?
It's the eternal question, Susan. I think what we've come to recognize before the pandemic, but certainly since, is the impacts of climate, the impacts of environmental degradation are getting worse. There's no way around it. And tourism has a huge and very, very responsible role to play in how we manage our planet going forward. There's a bit of a disconnect. I think younger people particularly are very, very aware of their carbon, their environmental footprints, and also caring for wildlife and caring for natural environments. But the issue is of connecting supply chains and demand, and how do we actually match up what people want to do and making everything environmentally sustainable. It's going to take a long time. Young people are demanding this, of course. Families are demanding it. We're seeing a greater sentiment towards wanting to travel more responsibly and more emissions free. But it's difficult. Travel by its very nature contributes to emissions to the environment. So there's a lot of work to do, but it has to be done very, very fast, because I think going forward, what we will see is that climate impact will actually affect the seasonality of travel. And once that starts to happen, once people actually can't take the trips that they want because of a flood or because of a fire or because of a hurricane, once that happens more and more often, more frequently, I think it will shock the system a little bit. But until that happens, I'm afraid I think we're still going to have a disconnect.
Gary Bowerman and T.K. Chen, a pleasure having you both on the program. Thanks again for joining us. And for our viewers everywhere, I'm Susan Chow. It's been good to have your company. If you liked today's episode or have anything you'd like to add to the dialogue, please join the conversation on our social media. And remember, stay informed, stay engaged, and stay connected.